What's going on, everybody? Hi, Mom. Welcome in to Roundtable Sports. In case you have absolutely no idea who I am, my name is Josh Halprin, and today I am taking you through Josh Halprin's postseason mock. Let's do it. I'm going to explain these are all my takes, nothing official, nothing anything. This is simply who I would take in the positions of these teams and why. And please don't bully me in the comments. I'm happy to have a discussion, but please don't call me names. My mom watches my videos, so don't say stuff that would offend her, because that's not nice. Let's kick this off with the first pick. The Tennessee Titans are on the clock, and with said pick, they are taking Abdul Carter. This is kind of a hot take, but let me just hear me out, y'all. Just hear me out. Abdul Carter, 6'3", 259 pounds. He had 12 sacks this year. It's not the most, but it's double digits, and double digits in college is it's solid. It's very, very solid. Went to Penn State, as you can see. He, as I said, 12 sacks this year. He had 6.5 in 2022 and 4.5 in 2023. So he was already a projected first rounder pre everything, but really shot up draft boards, and I have him going number one this year. And here's why, right? First off, the Titans traded Harold Landry to the Patriots. He was their best pass rusher last year, and the Titans are, for lack of a better word, abysmal. They have absolutely nothing going for them, uh, and just need a guy to come in. Open field, he'll get people down. The Titans, as I just said, traded Harold Landry, who was their top pass rusher, and these other guys named Micah Parsons and Chop Robinson. And I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're pretty good at football. And they also went to Penn State. Also, both of them 6'3", and all three of these guys are over 235 pounds. Penn State knows how to develop these guys. If Abdul Carter goes to the Titans, he's going to do well. Abdul Carter is a great player, and he's going to do well no matter what team drafts him. I'm confident in that. Chop in his rookie year had six, I want to say. I believe he had 6 sacks. And then Micah Parsons is probably top five, if not the best defensive player in the entire league right now. And all these guys went to Penn State, all developed them, all playing that exact same role at Penn State, and all dominant at Penn State too. So Penn State knows how to develop these guys. Now, the big question would be, why not Cam Ward? Because so many people have Ward going number one, and I have him going number two to the Browns, which I'll get to in a second. But I don't have him going one for a multitude of reasons. All right. If the Titans take Cam Ward here, he is going to be Bryce Young 2.0. Is Bryce Young a great young quarterback for the Panthers right now? Yes. Was he always looked at as that? No. Did he get benched midway through his sophomore season because of a lack of production? Yes. Is that 100% his fault? No. They have, because the Panthers right now have, or Bryce Young's rookie and sophomore years, besides Xavier Legette and Adam Thielen, have literally nothing around him to help him out whatsoever. They're just setting him up for failure, but they've got their franchise guy. In my opinion, if you want your quarterback to be successful, you need to build the team around them and then find your quarterback, so that quarterback has maximum confidence and ability to succeed right out the gate. Right? Look what the Chiefs did for Patrick Mahomes. Look what the Packers did for Brett Favre, Jordan Love, and Aaron Rodgers. It's it's not bread and butter, but it makes more sense to set your quarterback up for success than for failure. And if Cam Ward goes to Titans at one, they're setting him up for absolute failure. He is not going to have a good rookie year. They have no offensive line to protect him. He's going to get unalived. Am I allowed to say YouTube? I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to bleep it, but he's not going to do well. End the story. Titans cannot surround Ward with a good enough team right now for him to have any success right off the bat. He's going to be a great quarterback for another team. I would go to the Browns, but I just don't think the Titans should take him. He's going to be a great quarterback if he can speed up his release, all that stuff. I'll get to talking about Cam Ward in a second, but Titans right now are not in a position to draft their franchise quarterback. They need to go for the best player available. And when we're talking about Abdul Carter, who developed under the same system as Micah Parsons and the same system as Chop Robinson, he's going to be a dog. Take the best player in the draft. Not talent wise, but like for your positional need of who's going to be the best out the gate in year one, you take Abdul Carter because he's going to make the most immediate impact on your team out of any of these guys that you could possibly take. You either take Abdul Carter or you trade the pick. There is no in between. Do not take Cam Ward. He is going to fail in your system right now. He might be good in 2 or 3 years, but 2 or 3 years is you're kind of waiting around for that, and then fans get impatient. Look what's going on with Bryce Young. He's going to be Bryce Young 2.0 if he goes to the Titans. End of discussion. Let's move on to the second pick, Cam Ward. Cam Ward is 6'2", 223 pounds, and has some great decision making. I wrote down elite decision making. It's pretty good. I'm not going to sit here and do tricks on it, but he's a good quarterback. He's a good decision maker. My only real issue with him in the pocket is that he gets to just kind of like stagnant and too nonchalant. I'd like it if he had a little bit more drive, a little bit more, show that's involved in the game. You don't necessarily want to draft an outfielder that just like stands in the outfield. You want him to look like he's playing the position and ready for anything to happen. Cam Ward, two-time transfer portal entry. Has only improved as his career progressed and has only played better against the better competition that he's faced. And then look at the Browns for positional need. They signed two offensive linemen in free agency in Tevin Jenkins and Cornelius Lucas. Is that big of an impact? No, but at least he has an offensive line, unlike he would have with Titans. And I think picking up Tevin Jenkins, especially off the Bears, I want to say, that's a really, really good pickup for the Browns, who already have a pretty reasonable offensive line. Their main issue has just been Deshaun Watson's ability to keep it in his pants and stay on the field. Jerry Jeudy kind of broke out, and I think there's a possibility for him to continue to break out. He had over 1,000 yards last year, and I think that he is only going to improve in this Browns system as he becomes a true wide receiver one that Denver, for whatever reason, didn't want to wait for him to become. I think Cam Ward has him as a target. You can get 4 receivers down the board. I know there's kind of a fall off. I originally had them going with a guy like Isaiah Bond in the third, but Isaiah Bond is in jail. Or maybe not in jail, but he turned himself in, got some stuff going on. He's a little preoccupied. He will not be suiting up for the Cleveland Browns, but even if he was picked by them, I mean, you have Deshaun Watson, but do you really have Deshaun Watson when he can't stay on the field because of injuries? You paid him all that money. It was probably like one of the worst contracts I've ever seen. Crazy that the Browns gave him that much money, and the Browns are just looking to move on here. Get Ward. He's not gonna be a bad thing. Like, once again, do you trust Kenny Pickett to go out there? Clearly not, because you signed Joe Flacco. Do you trust Joe Flacco to go out there? Joe Flacco is old. If you trust Joe Flacco to go out there, then my kind of idea, I guess, is you put Flacco out there and then slowly give Ward reps and then eventually give Ward the starting job. Browns already have a great defense. You can get receivers. I mentioned the Isaiah Bond thing. That's not going to happen. But I think a guy like Nick Nash could do really, really good in the Cleveland Browns offense. Ward's coachable. He's going to develop and could be great for the Browns. And why are you not taking Shedeur Sanders in this position? Johnny Manziel. You don't want another diva. Not that I don't think that Sanders is going to be great in the right system. I just don't think that he is the Browns guy. I think it makes the most sense for them to go Cam Ward, just the way that the board is falling right now. Third, Travis Hunter, New York Giants. I love this pick. Travis Hunter is 6'1", 185 pounds. He is the most athletic player. He is the most athletic player we have ever seen in the draft. End of debate. End of discussion. He is insane. What we have seen, say what you want about Colorado. I get it. I think it's stupid that they're retiring their numbers. They didn't do anything like, what's the word? They didn't do anything of like game note, but Travis Hunter still won the Heisman for Colorado. Like, he's the Heisman winner. Do you want to argue that it should? I think it should have gone to Genti because MVP, most valuable player, Heisman. Travis Hunter, easily most athletic player we've ever seen. First time we've ever seen a player play these two positions at a high level, and apparently he wants to play these two positions in the NFL, or he's apparently not going to play. So I don't know how true that is, but if you're in a position like the Giants, you can use him anywhere. The Giants, you're not picking third for no reason. They could have potentially had the first overall pick if Drew Lock didn't decide to lock in and win their game week 18. Like Travis Hunter, arguably could be the best overall player. Could be better than Abdul Carr, could be better than Cam Ward. I'm not saying he is, I'm saying he could be. But when your quarterback is a guy named Jameis Winston, right? Jameis Winston, yeah. A guy who's thrown 50 touchdowns along with like 30 or like whatever interceptions. Travis Hunter catches both of those. He is going to get up in the air. He is going to fight for the ball. If you want to use him on defense, you can. If you want to use him on offense, he'd be a great asset next to Malik Neighbors, and he would be a great asset in your ever-growing secondary room. He had 15 touchdown catches in his college season, which is wild. Second most behind Nick Nash, who had 16. If I need to say anything more, just let me. Oh, this is another thing I really, really want to note. He is not going to go out and party in New York. Okay, he's going to wait outside like a good little boy for his girlfriend. Moving on, Will Campbell going fourth, the offensive tackle out of LSU. Will Campbell is 6'6", 323 pounds. Give Drake May time to pass the rock. NFL Combine weaknesses I've got here, where the NFL experts are saying that Will Campbell struggles getting to his landmarks on lateral blocks, that his paddle and hand placement create leverage disadvantages, that he gets too far out of his skis and can be knocked off balance, that his protections are marked by inconsistent footwork and body control, that his punch timing can be mechanical and predictable, that he allows inside pressure due to oversets and early openings, and that he struggles to redirect the rush when he's beaten off the edge, and that his speed to power can bounce him into the pocket. Every single one of those issues is coachable. Most, if not every single one of those, is coachable. May has shown what he can do with the talent around him currently, with 15 touchdowns and 10 picks. Apparently, that's good enough for a Pro Bowl. Give him a weapon round 2 or 3, but he needs time to pass the rock before you can, get it going downfield. That's why I don't have Cam Ward going to the Titans and why I have him going to the Browns instead. The Browns actually have an offensive line. Cam Ward is not Drake May. They're two completely different prospects. I don't think Cam has the speed in his game to be able to compete behind no offensive line like Will Campbell was able to. At the end of the day, Will Campbell's the pick here for good reason. Get a solid coachable lineman that you can have on your team for the next decade. If you're the Patriots here, is my take. Moving forward, pick 5. Here at 5, I have Mason Graham from Michigan, the defensive tackle. He is 6'3", 320 pounds. He's an elite run stopper and a backfield disruptor. Jags allowed the 8th most rushing yards last season, and you can get Lawrence blockers day 2. It's a pretty deep offensive line class. Fix your defense first, because defensive tackles in this year's draft are kind of hard to come by, because you got Graham and then you got Kenneth Grant. And then I guess you've got guys like Walter Nolan. But at 5, Mason Graham's such a premier guy. You just got to go and get him. Adding him to the defense allows more rush opportunities for the other Josh Allen pick 7th overall and your first overall pick a few years ago, Trayvon Walker, to develop. And along with the free agency signings of Jordan Lewis, the free agency signing, of Jordan Lewis, the Jags defense should take a step up and continue to do so with this pick. 6th overall, a little bit of an interesting one. Don't hate me. Don't come at me in the comments, please. Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado, to the Raiders. Shedeur Sanders is 6'2", 250 pounds. He had a 74% completion rate in college. He threw for 4,134 yards. He had 37 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Let's just take away who he is and look at those numbers, okay? 74% completion, over 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 picks. Crazy. Sanders, when watching his film, has a ton of positives and a ton of negatives. Colorado and Dion did not run an offense that's going to translate to an NFL team. They didn't have a single rusher over 400 yards, including Sanders. Okay, they literally just shucked the rock up. That's not how at least I don't think that's how NFL offense is accurate when he throws the ball. He can make tight window passes, but he does hang on to the ball, leading to sacks. Blame the offensive line all you want. That's a factor, yes, but great NFL quarterbacks do not let bad offensive line play make or break the loss of yards. Joe Burrow, okay? His defense and offensive line were terrible. He literally only has receivers and a guy named Trey Hendrickson. Their defense couldn't stop points to save their lives, and his offensive line couldn't stop a leaf from getting through anything. It doesn't matter. You need something. I'm losing my train of thought here. I apologize. Shedeur Sanders, why the Raiders, though? A lot of people have him falling to 9 with the Saints. And while I think that the Saints could also benefit from him, I think that the Raiders take him here for a very, very specific reason. I'm going to read off some stats to you guys. 72.8% completion rate. 3,175 passing yards. 33 touchdowns to 4 picks. Those are Russell Wilson's senior stats at Wisconsin. Pete Carroll is the new head coach at the Raiders. His numbers sound kind of similar to Shedeur Sanders. I would say that they are very comparable players, Russell Wilson and Shedeur Sanders, besides the huge ego. Is Geno the long-term answer for the Raiders? No. You gave him a huge contract, but is he going to be the guy that takes you to a Super Bowl? Afford to sit Sanders and let him develop out of his bad habits, like his 75% completion, but also the most sack quarterback just tells me that he's hanging onto the ball way too long and would rather take a sack than damage his completion percentage. Sanders can throw the rock when he has to. He proved that with his 4,000 yards and 37 touchdowns. He needs to develop out of these bad habits, out of his stat padding, and just focus on more of a genuine team success kind of thing. And I think that Pete Carroll is the kind of coach that can bring that out of Sanders. I think that this is just a best possible spot for Sanders to land, because Geno's not the answer. He's not going to be. He might be good, but he's not going to be the guy that leads you to a Super Bowl. The same way that I don't think Jared Goff is the guy that leads the Lions to their first ever Super Bowl win. And you look at a guy like Jordan Love too. His issues coming out of college could be coached out of his system, and Sanders is in the same boat. Jordan sat for 3 years, but I do think that he sits. I think it's in their best interest to sit him and let Geno start for a year while you coach Sanders up to be the quarterback that he can be, because truly, if he gets out of these bad habits, he's a generational talent, man. Like, if Sanders can grow up and start dogging, then he's going to be a great quarterback for the Raiders for 10, 20, 15, 20 years. I don't know. He's going to be good. At 7 to the Jets, I have Armand Membao. He is 6'4", 332 pounds. Jets have a huge hole at right tackle. Give Fields time to pass the ball downfield to Wilson. You just picked up Justin Fields in the offseason. Give him time. Let him cook. Justin Fields is a great quarterback who has not been given an opportunity to succeed by franchise. Jets, for the love of God, give him the chance to succeed. And Armand Membao gives him time to actually process through his reads, which is something that he's really been struggling to do at the next level. It also opens up holes for Breece Hall to run through. It opens up holes for Fields to run through, and just in general, you need an offensive lineman here. Take him. He's athletic and coachable. If he was staying for another year, he'd probably be the best offensive lineman in next year's draft. This year he got second team All SEC, and he's only gotten better throughout his 3 seasons of play. Moving on to, that's not a very glamorous pick, so I don't have much to say about it. But moving on to pick 8, I've got Teddariola McMillan going to the Panthers. McMillan is 6'5", 212 pounds. He has great production through his 3 years at Arizona. He's not really the question, as I believe he's going to be a great addition for whichever team drafts him. But why the Panthers, right? Bryce Young is in the bottom half of sacks. He's not under as much pressure anymore. You need to get him targets. You look at Xavier Legette, how well he did his first season. He can't speak, but he did pretty good. Adam Thielen aging, but another great guy to have there. Then you bring in a guy like McMillan. Bryce Young has absolutely no excuses to not succeed if you get those three guys. In my opinion, the Panthers should feel no need in this position to find a positional need since they're kind of just mid everywhere. Like defense, definitely an issue, but this entire draft is so just so defensive minded that you can afford to pass on defense here, but getting a premier wide receiver for your young quarterback is not the easiest thing to come by in this year's draft. So I think you go McMillan, you stick with the bit. I'm not doing any trades, by the way, because it just gets way too much to predict, and I do not feel like doing that. Uh, because they're way too hard to predict. I'm not an NFL GM. I'm not going to weigh out what's fair and not fair because I can't read minds. So I'd just rather stick and pick. You go best player available, and edge rushers in this draft are also stacked. And I think you could get somebody like Jack Sawyer round 2 for the Panthers and be just fine. Moving on, pick 9. Pick 9, I've got Michael Williams going to the Saints. He is 6'5", 265. He has only improved as his college career went on. Saints need to generate pressure into the backfield. They had the 3rd most yards allowed in 2024, and let a guy who managed 4 sacks every year on the Georgia defensive line cook. Give Brissy and Young more rotational help. More than 30% of this guy's tackles are for loss. I want that on my defense. You need guys on your defense, especially for the Saints, that can wrap up. Please get them. And then also when looking at all these stats for all these, there's 3, I think, Georgia defensive end linebacker guys that I have going in the first round. You got to keep in mind just how stacked this Georgia defense is. Because, I urge anyone to look up past Georgia defensive linemen and find a top prospect within the past 3 years with I'm not going to say more sacks, but you just got to look at his production. You got to look at those numbers with a grain of salt and remember just how many guys are rushing on Georgia's team. They got guys like in the past, you got Nolan Smith, you got Jalen Carter, you got Jordan Davis. They're on the Eagles now for some reason. But I think you take a guy like Michael Williams here, stick and pick it again. You need defensive help. Get yourself an edge rusher, and done deal. Pick up a quarterback in the 2nd round for that same kind of thing that you were going to do with Sanders. I think a guy like Jalen Milroe in round 2 or 3 or wherever he lands could be a great guy for the Saints. But I think that you have more important needs than quarterback because Derek Carr is comparable right now, and Taysom Hill still exists. Now, let's talk Ashton Jeanty. And by the way, the reason that I do not have Jeanty going to the Raiders, like so many other people have, I think that Sanders in the long term moves the needle towards a Super Bowl more than Ashton Jeanty does for the Raiders. I don't think they're in a position where they're able to draft whoever they want. They're not in that position. However, the Bears have set themselves up perfectly to draft Jeanty by signing 3 offensive linemen in the offseason. In Drew Dahlman, you traded for Joe Thuney, and you signed Jonah Jackson. Jeanty, a little bit of facts about him. He's 5'9", 215. He is a dog. He had one of the greatest running back seasons ever, was robbed of the Heisman, and is the best back in the draft since Barkley. And that is good company to be in. He had 2,601 yards. Don't forget the 1. He had 29 touchdowns, and he averaged 7 yards a carry last season. He carried his team and can carry a team. I think if you put him in an offense with Williams, Odunze, Keenan Allen, the offensive line that you've gotten totally revamped more, you can pick up a tight end around there somewhere. I don't know who the Bears tight end is right now off the top of my head. Somebody please tell me in the comments. But I think that Jeanty just takes your offense from scary to scary, like scary to scary, like really, really scary, like scary, man. And he takes your offense to that next level. And also he's just the guy. Ben Johnson gets another toy. Moving on to 11. I got Will Johnson going to the 49ers. Will Johnson is 6'2", 202 pounds. He had pure production at Michigan and should only get better. You can talk about him not working out all you want, but just look at his tape. Turnovers, dangerous. Quarterbacks should not throw the ball near him. He's a former 5-star for a reason. The Niners, in my opinion, need a corner more than their offensive line and can get a good day 2 offensive lineman. If anybody has anything else that they want to say, please comments. Leave it there. I read all of them. I love reading the comments. All 6 of them that I get. It's awesome. Moving on. Pick 12. Galvin Banks. The Cowboys are super upset that Genty is gone. They might trade up to try and get him, but who knows? Not me. I have him going Calvin Banks, the offensive tackle out of Texas. He is 6'5", 315. Genty's gone. Rip, bless up. You need an offensive line, and you should take possibly the best one in this draft. If the best offensive lineman in this draft is not Will Campbell, then it's probably Calvin Banks. All first-round offensive linemen should be pretty good this year, but Banks is going to be good, and RIP Zach Martin will be missed. Pick 13. Malachi Starks, the defensive back from Georgia, going to the Dolphins of Miami. Just recently, I believe at least, doesn't look like Ramsey's coming back. Malachi Starks, quick little facts about him. He's 6'1", 197 pounds. He started 14 games as a freshman for the eventual national champion, I apologize. It's very impressive to do at corner, especially as a freshman. Freshman corners do not usually get a lot of playing time. He started all the games, and they won the national championship that year, due to his contributions. Great production throughout college. He makes your defense more dominant. Great replacement for Ramsey. He has elite awareness. He is great in run support, and most of his issues lie in man coverage and block shedding, but I don't think the Dolphins will play him in positions where that's going to matter. Keep him as a deep safety. He's also just linked way too heavily to not be picked here, in my opinion. And that same testimony goes for pick 14 here with Tyler Warren. Let's talk about Tyler Warren real quick. He is 6'6", 257 pounds. He is elite in every aspect of the word. He is coachable. He did nothing but progress in college. You need to get more talent around Richardson and Danny Dimes, whoever you end up starting. Okay? Because Michael Pittman has proven that he cannot do it all. And right now, starting at tight end for them is Ogletree, Drew Ogletree, who I, don't think you see as your long-term starter. If Tyler Warren ends up getting taken at 7 to the Jets, that's also a possibility of a place where Warren could go. I think here could easily be the Colston Loveland falling spot, but either way, you need to take a tight end here. No real ifs, ands, or buts about it. You could trade up, could not. I don't know how much you value it, but I think Tyler Warren is easily the best tight end in this draft. He won the Mackey, which goes to the best tight end in college football. And you take him and he's going to do nothing but progress. Let's talk about Shamar Stewart, who I have going at 15th overall to the Falcons. Shamar Stewart is 6'5", 267. Dude is a crazy good athlete. He balled out at the combine. He had a 4.59 40 with a 158 10-yard split. He had a 40-inch vert and almost 11 feet in the broad jump. This pick, to me, feels like the Trayvon Walker pick a few years ago. Insane upside. You passed on Dallas Turner for Penix. It might be a good idea to take a high upside player at a position of actual need this time. No hate to Penix. He didn't get to choose where he got drafted, but I think Shamar Stewart, you put him in there, he's going to be coachable, and he's going to put in some work on your defensive line. 16, I've got kind of a reach here. James Pierce Jr., 6'5", 245. Shout out Papa Meeks. Beginning of the year, he was considered the number 1 overall pick by most scouts. He did not have a bad season. He just stayed consistent. 7.5 sacks and a forced fumble. Not a bad year. He can grow and bulk more into his frame. He's going to continue to see consistent production at the next level. He had a 4.47 40. He is fast. And Arizona right now is sort of directionless. So, in my opinion, you should get a high upside defensive end, and then round 2, focus on your offensive line. Pick 17. Jalen Walker, a linebacker out of Georgia, going to that Bengals defense. Let's talk about Walker. He's 6'2", 245. He did nothing but get better on that stacked Georgia defense that I was telling you all about earlier. You got to re-sign Hendrickson to a max deal, okay? He's the cornerstone of your defense. You need to prioritize if you want to be back in the playoffs. You were so close last year. Re-sign him. He had the most sacks, I believe he had the most sacks last year. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Re-sign him and get him some help. And then hopefully more attention on Walker will get what's his face, Jenkins going. Jenkins, who you took last year. This pick needs to be on defense. Burrow cannot do everything. He cannot continue. You can worry about the offensive line later. It's very deep offensive line class, but you got to focus on your defense right here and actually getting turnovers and not sacks because Hendrickson can't carry everything. You can't. His back's getting tired, man. Let's talk about Tyler Booker here. 18th overall to the Seahawks. Tyler Booker is 6'5", 325. Big boy. You got Kupp and JSN. Your receiver's not a top priority. People are going to have him taking possible Luther Burton, Matthew Golden, Emeka Egbuka, I apologize. But honestly, I don't think you need that guy right now. You just signed Sam Darnold, who the offensive line help because he's known for hanging onto the ball. So give him more time to hang onto the ball and get the ball to SN Cooper Kupp. Get the ball out. Makes no sense not to upgrade his protection, and it gives your offense the best chance of success because it's also going to be opening up running lanes for K9 to run through and dominate because go green, baby. There it is. Point at it. Go green, baby. 19. I've got Jahad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama, going to the Buccaneers. Jahad Campbell is 6'3", 224. He had 119 tackles, which is crazy in college. Tampa offense is already very good. His pick should be defense, and he fits that Tampa mentality of just being an absolute game record dog. I think Baker Mayfield's going to love having him on his team. Next, the Denver Broncos. I have them going with Matthew Golden, a wide receiver out of Texas. Matthew Golden is 6', 195. He had great production at Texas. You need to get Bo Nix weapons. This pick could easily be Burton or Egbuka, but I have them going with Golden. Either way, no matter what, you need to take a receiver here. This is where they fit the mold the best, and you have absolutely no receiving help outside of Cortland Sutton and another guy that I'm forgetting the name of right now, and I apologize for that. He projects to be what Jerry Jeudy could have been there, but ended up not being. Moving on, pick 21. I have Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Emeka Egbuka is 6'1", 205 pounds. I think you should get a level-headed receiver in there to balance out Pickens and Metcalf. He played a great slot for OSU. Could continue to do so for Steelers here. Give whoever ends up playing quarterback a chance to be successful. This could be, again, Burton or Golden, depending on how stuff falls. But I have them going with Egbuka. This pick 22. Colston Loveland. Surprisingly, Jim Harbaugh takes a player out of Michigan. I know. Huge surprise. What? No way. What? No. Colston Loveland is 6'5", 245. Shout out Papa Meeks. This feels like a match made in heaven as Harbaugh, gets another one of his former Michigan men. Herbert needs weapons so bad outside of Ladd McConkey. Get him somebody outside of Ladd McConkey. Because I don't know what Quentin Johnston's been doing, but it hasn't been catching the football. Tight end is easily the biggest team need for the Chargers right now, and the fall of that position is huge once Loveland is off the board. So you need to get one here, as I was saying earlier. You need your tight end here. He's a great run blocker, good pass blocker, and he's a matchup nightmare for a linebacker. Colston Loveland's the pick. Argue with the wall. Next. At pick 23, I have the Packers going not with a receiver. Huge surprise, I know. What, the Packers aren't taking a receiver in the first round? No way. What? Do they need that? They know, but they're not going to. Because doesn't like doing that. I have them going with J.D. Barron, the defensive back out of Texas. He is 5'11", 200 pounds. Pack ain't drafting a receiver. Come on now. Come on. You play too much. They're not drafting a receiver. Eddie Barron had 5 picks. He was a 3-year starter. He won the Thorpe this year, which goes to the best defensive back. And you need to get Alexander a competent partner in crime. You know, you took Eric Stokes. It was a terrible pick at the time, and he is no longer on the team for good reason. And then Alexander could be hurt again. You know, it seems to happen a lot. This dude's going to be a dog, and the story, please scoop him back. You need him. Next up, I have at 24, division rival of the Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, going with Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. Kenneth Grant is 6'3", 339, big old boy. Him and Mason Graham were a dominant force. You got Dallas Turner last year. Give him a partner to cause even more disruption in the backfield because you got to stop Gibbs, Jacobs, and if the Bears take him, Genty. That's not easy to do. You better get your defense some more help because those 3 guys are monsters, and arguably you have 3 of the top 10, if not. I don't know if you can consider. If is Genty already a top 10 running back? I don't know. But I guess it all depends. But he's a dominant force. You're going to play him twice a year. You're playing all those guys twice a year. So you better be able to stop him. Get Kenneth Grant on your defense. Get another Michigan guy. Shout out Hank. I know how much you love those Michigan guys. Let's move on. Pick 25. I have the Texans going with Josh Simmons. And I'm not going to lie here. I don't have any notes on Josh Simmons. I know he's a pretty good offensive tackle. But just in my notes here, I have, for the love of fuck Lord, please just take, sorry for my language, for the love of Lord, please take an offensive tackle or Stroud is going to become the second Ohio State quarterback to get unalived because he was blindsided at 70 miles an hour. End of story. You need an offensive lineman or Stroud is going to get manhandled and baby boyed and put 6 feet under. I have Simmons, but if they took Josh Connerly or Cam Williams or Wyatt Millam on a reach, I wouldn't be surprised. Because we're also talking about the Texans here who are known to reach on people like that. Next up, pick 26, I have them going with Luther Burton, the third, out of Missouri, the wide receiver going to the Rams. Excuse me. Luther Burton is 5'11", 208 pounds. This pick could be Golden or Igbuka, but I have them going with Burton. You know, you lost Cup. Puka number 2 with Devontae at the top, but you need a slot, and Luther Burton is such a dominant slot receiver. I think he is so underrated, and he can learn from Adams, who's arguably one of the greatest route runners ever. I think this is, once again, another one of those matches made in heaven. Pick 27, I have the Ravens going with Donovan E., because I am not going to pronounce that. I apologize. Donovan is 6'2", 247. He has been productive since his freshman year. He stuck it out for 3 years at Boston College, which is not really something that you see a lot anymore. Shout out NIL. No, you pair him with Van Noy, let him wreak havoc. This guy, Donovan, he had the most stacks in the NCAA last year at, I want to say 17, but I'm not 100% sure. Pair him up with Kyle Van Noy, who had pretty good stack numbers last year. I think he was top 5. And just let them wreak havoc in the backfield. No big deal. Just let them destroy opposing offensive lines and quarterback mentality. Pick 28. I have the Detroit Lions going with Mike Green, the defensive end out of Marshall. I know a lot of people have him going a lot higher. The reason that I do not have Mike Green going as high is because of one key reason. He produced in the MAC. I think that scares off a lot of teams. I think that we've seen players fall in the past because they went to smaller schools, and I think Mike Green just falls victim to that. I don't think it's because of his play style. I think it's just because of how the league values smaller schools, especially after NIL and players going to transfer to different spots, increase their careers and get more money and all that good stuff. Mike Green, he's 6'4", 248. He had the second most sacks in the NCAA last year. He just feels like a Lions kind of player. He matches their mentality, their grit, all that stuff, because he just absolutely burst onto the scene this year. And Hutch needs a partner because Aleem McNeil and Levi Onwuzurike are not enough. Moving on. Pick 29, I've got the Washington football Commanders, going with Siobhan Revell Jr., a defensive back out of East Carolina. Siobhan Revell is 6'3", 193 pounds. His season was cut to just 3 games, but he had 2 picks already. He had a season-ending injury, but I think that he should still go in the first round here. I had him going in my midseason mock first round still, and I don't think that should change. Washington offense can score now, so now you should get defense. Take his boomer bust potential. The offense is so good with Daniels. You made it to the NFC Championship last year. Daniels is good. You continue to take that and continue to take that offense sky high as much as it'll take you, because you can afford for Siobhan Revell to sit and develop and heal, because your offense is just that dominant. You can afford to wait a little bit on him before you pair him up with guys like Mike Sanderstill. Next, at pick 30, I have the Buffalo Bills going with Nick Emanwori, a defensive back out of South Carolina. Andrew, you are so welcome, because this guy might be my favorite player in the draft. He is so awesome. He could go so much earlier, but I've mocked the Bills because I just think he fits that Bills mentality. Nick Emanwori is 6'3", 227. Absolute dog, so needed for the Bills. He's only improved. He does not miss tackles, open field or assisted. He picks the ball. He's a touchdown machine. He fits that Bills culture, like I was saying, and he would revolutionize the defense, and it would be so awesome. Mar Hamlin, dude, the fact that you survived is an absolute miracle. It's awesome, but you're not good at football. Respectfully, get off that Bills roster, get your depth position, and let Nick Emanwori come in and just absolutely start dogging. 31, I have Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, the defensive end, former number 1 overall player in the recruiting ranking coming out of high school. He is 6'3", 305. He is a high potential player with subpar production in college, and the type of player that should develop pretty well into the Chiefs system. They love taking their guys that have high potential and low production. Let's just be real. And then finally, at pick 32, I have the Philadelphia Eagles going with Nick Scorton, a defensive end out of Texas A&M. Nick Scorton is 6'4", 285. He is a Purdue transfer and had 10 sacks last year at Purdue. And the Eagles, let's just be real, okay? The Eagles have no holes except for inner offensive line, which you're not going to take here. There's a reason that they stopped the Chiefs three-peat. Take a developmental guy who have no pressure to be amazing as a rookie. Just take him and scheme him, and he's going to be solid enough to maybe get you back to the Super Bowl. You bring him into the rotation. He has absolutely no pressure to be phenomenal right off the bat. You can let him just sit back and develop, and that is all that you got to do. All right, y'all, I'm down here now. Thank you so much for making it this far in the video. If you did, I really, really appreciate it. Please leave your comments, whatever, in the comments, because I want to talk to you guys. Please get involved on our Instagram, on our TikTok, YouTube, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm just going to say all the stereotypical stuff that normal people, and I'll see you in the next one. Please, please, please interact and let me know what comments you have.